a pioneer and an innovator whose life spans two extraordinary worlds, a challenging upbringing during China's Cultural Revolution and her rise as an entrepreneur in the US. She co-founded Geomagic and has shared a remarkable journey in her memoir, Bend Not Break. Today, we'll explore the moments that define her, the wisdom she's gained, and her thoughts on living courageously between cultures and worlds. Hello, Ping Fu.
Hello, Rose.
Very happy to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me.
We met through Roman and Manon because you've been doing a trip in the Amazon with Harvest.
Yes.
How was it?
That was amazing trip. I was also at Harvest a couple of times. I was there at the very beginning.
Okay. Are you in LA now?
I am. Yeah, in the middle of the smoke and fire.
Yeah, what's the situation right now?
It's quite unfortunate, but it also makes us thinking about the fire, nature, and our relationship to it.
Okay, how do you see it?
Well, we're still reflecting, we're still in the middle of the trauma. And I'm also on the Burning Man board, and I've been to Burning Man for 21 years. And fire has always been something like a source of life, celebration, but this time it's very destructive.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? I couldn't really actually talk about it right now. I think I need to sit on it a little longer.
Yeah, I understand, and all my empathy for the situation you're going through. Let's talk about your childhood and early life in China. Can you share a moment from your childhood life that shaped who you are today?
That's a good question. I wouldn't say it's a moment because my childhood trauma during the Cultural Revolution is 10 years long, and I never thought about it would be 10 years. But I would say the most traumatic moment was the day where I lost my parents and become the surrogate mother of my sister when I was 8 years old and she was 4. I had a very lovely life, and overnight everything turned upside down, and suddenly I lost the world that I knew and entered into an atrocity and dark period for a very long time. And that experience, I think, shaped me in several ways. One is resilience, right? When you have to live 10 years atrocity, you have to be resilient, otherwise one's soul and body will be crushed. The other one, I would say that during that 10 years, what shaped me very significantly is self-learning, because school was taken away from us. Everything we learn, we have to learn from life and from each other. So I developed very strong self-learning skills, which later served me very well on the entrepreneurial journey.
Wow, can you tell me what became your day-to-day life, and come back a little bit about the political situation at the time when you were just a young girl with your sister?
Well, day-to-day life at the beginning was very hard because there were no adult supervision, no parents, no teacher. We were putting in this student dormitory, which since university was closed down, we're like a little Red Robin Hood, right? Menting to ourselves. At 8, I learned how to start a coal stove to cook, otherwise you'll starve. Food was very hard to find, so we often are hungry. We are always fearful for doing anything wrong, saying anything wrong, and being beaten up or potentially lose your life. So it was very hard at the beginning. I was very confused. And then we were organized into groups to go to the countryside, to farm in the farmland, go to the factory to work with manual work, and also being trained on Long March. Mao said to study from farmers, soldiers, and workers, and that was kind of our day-to-day life. And only thing we study is Mao's Red Little Book.
And what was your situation before? What were your parents doing, and what happened to them?
So my biological parents my father was professor and my mom was accountant. But I was raised by my aunt and uncle in Shanghai because my parents were very busy and my mom didn't want a child. My aunt took me, and she has 5 children older than me, and I was the youngest of 6 at her household. I thought my Shanghai and uncle were my parents. It was a lovely, lovely life. I have 5 older siblings, a very big mansion in Shanghai, beautiful garden. I love to go to the library, watching dragonfly flying outside and reading all the books my grandfather kept in the library. And that was a pictorious childhood, I would say, for 8 years until Cultural Revolution started.
Would you say like having to take care of your youngest sister helped you in a way?
In a way that saved my life and also helped me to develop a very strong mother instincts at very young. I think 2 people are more courageous. And with my sister needed care and together to struggle through life, I couldn't imagine leave this world and left her alone. So there were many times when I was really abused. I felt life is not worth living. But because of my sister, I felt that we need to survive this together. I need to take care of her. So that's the kind of the mother instinct that I developed. And later I used this in my life, and it's not even like I want it or not. I just have that motherly nature because in my formidable year, I was made to be a surrogate mother.
What gave you hope when during your most difficult times in China?
When I was young, my Shanghai papa taught me the Taoism principle. And when he realized something bad will happen in China, which I was too young to understand, he taught me 3 friends of winter. And he said I was bamboo, that I need to be a bamboo, bend not break. So he taught me about resilience, but he also taught me about the necessity of beauty. He asked me to focus on things that are beautiful among us things that are ugly. And he says that if you focus on beauty, then your life will be beautiful no matter how the environment is surrounding you. So that was really what I was doing. Like every time like I saw broken lights at the end of the hallway, I was thinking about the soldier's head. And when I saw something, a flower in the middle of garbage, I would go pick it up and then just treasure it. So like I made my gaze focused on beautiful things. The Japanese has wabi-sabi. So you could also look at things that are broken and see beauty from it.
This is really fascinating, and it really resonates with me because during Christmas, my mom and her brother told me about their childhood, and I could notice my uncle really focused or had pain because of the traumatic event and the disease of their parents. And my mom only focused on the positive things, and they had a totally different version of their childhood. And they had this kind of the same because they're not the same age. But I really realized that my mother was focusing on the good, positive, strong points, and that's a nature she has or she's developed since childhood. And I guess it reminds me a bit what you're just saying.
Yes. Also, one of my uncle during the Cultural Revolution, in the most difficult time of my life, he told me, "You're precious. Remember, that's your birthright." So during that time, that was a phrase that I keep reminding myself. When I was raped and when I was being told that I was a broken shoe, that no one would want me, I was worth nothing. I would remember that I'm precious. That's my birthright. And that really gave me the strength.
Wow, you're really talking about huge atrocities. How do you? What was your journey to heal from them? Do you consider now that you healed from them, or you're still healing?
Trauma is a difficult thing, right? So I think like psychologically, I gone through a lot of work on myself and to deal with many, many years of trauma. Emotionally, I can process it. Intellectually, I can handle it or manage it. But body keeps the score.
Yeah.
So sometimes in unexpected places, it will bite you. Your body would react to that trauma. And I still can feel that. What I learned is to have the awareness, to know where your body feels that trauma, and to be aware, not necessarily try to overcome it, because if you do that, it's just a denial.
Okay.
But if you can make peace with your trauma, and then knowing that it is not the trauma, it is your reaction to the trauma is what's caused the issue, then you can manage your reaction without denying it nor being traumatized by it again.
You were mentioning you had some motherly instinct, things taking care of your sister. Is it what gives you comfort even today to have a mother instinct on people or in different situations today? Now, when you feel probably down, when you have these moments, is it what gives you hope also today?
Yeah. So the way I think about the mother is a universal love, right? Like mother's love is very safe. That's why children will go act out in front of their mother, because they know the mother will not go away anywhere. And also, every child is lucky to have a good mother, have a caring mother, have a mother that supports their dreams and desires, right? So I'm thinking of a mother in that kind of universal sense. And when I was running the company, I do that too, because I would care for everyone who works in the company. I wish the best for them. I want to give them everything. This is like how mother act to their children. And that mother instinct was my leadership style. And later I learned this phrase called the servant's leadership, right? But to me, like a mother's leadership style is even more than servant's leadership, because it has this greater unconditional universal love to the people you serve.
How did it feel to leave your home country behind, and how did you leave China to go to the US? Can you tell me more about your journey and changing country?
Yeah, I never thought I was going to leave China until I got in trouble by reporting the one-child policy. When I got into trouble with the government, I had to leave, and my choice was either being sent to the remote China, because in China you have a registration of where you live. Once I lose my registration at where I grew up, I would not be able to come back. At least at that time was the severe situation, or leaving China. I didn't speak much English, and I applied for many countries. US just happened to be the first country to give me student visa. And I also could not do political asylum because my parents and my sister were all in China. And I could just go and not make any trouble and be a student. So I ended up coming to the United States with very little English. Once I knew I was going to come, I did try to learn English. I can read a little bit, and I tried to learn how to speak. There's no English teacher at the time in the early 80s. So everybody who can speak a little bit English has a very strong accent. When I came to the United States, I fly from Shanghai to San Francisco. That's the first time in my life I ever been on an airplane. So that is a very, I wouldn't say traumatic, but disorienting experience, right? You're not just left your country, you leave your home, you leave your family, you leave your friends, you leave everything that you're familiar with, including the food, you know, how you grew up, you eat certain food. Nothing is the same. And I also don't know anything about United States because at that time there was no internet. And China was still very closed and not allowing anything from outside to come in. I have no mental picture of what US is like. So it's very, very disorienting to come to United States. And that's my first experience. When I came to United States, my first impression of US was very good because I landed in San Francisco. I had a traveler's check to fly to New Mexico, which is the first university that gave me the visa. And the ticket price changed. In China, it's a communist country, it's price fixing. There's no such a thing as ticket price would change. And I was short of $5. I couldn't fly. I couldn't buy my transfer ticket to the university. And someone standing behind me gave $5 to the counter to help me to buy the tickets. I still have not found that person, but the lesson I learned is why in doubt, err on the side of generosity.
Wow, beautiful. And what shocked you the most when you arrived in the United States? Because most of the people, as you say, like when they go to the United States, they're already kind of fascinated because there are so many movies about Hollywood. But you arrived and everything is so different, I guess, about what you've been told. So what were the most maybe uncomfortable or shocking things you find in the Western culture?
I think every fresh off boat entrepreneurs has this dramatic culture shock. and I somehow so my brother, before I come out, this is a funny story. My brother said to me, "Oh, you're going to the United States. It's a very rich country." I said, "What does it mean?" Because at that time, I don't even understand what rich means. He says, "Oh, when you walk on the street, that above your head is bananas. And when you fall, you would fall on a watermelon. So you would have a mouthful of watermelon." I think those are just the fruit he liked to eat. So that was like my impression of United States. Of course, the San Francisco airport was beautiful, bright. Something that's kind of shocking is like everybody, when they smile, they are like a Julia Roberts. They have this big grin, which is not what I'm used to. And then the next shock was really language.
Of course, yeah.
I could only speak a few words of English, which made everything very, very difficult. And then also the cost of everything is so high. I didn't have any money. Of course, I learned how to work since I was 8, so that's not a problem. I can look for something to do. But then work is illegal as a student, so I'm living constant fear of being deported also. Okay. So those are kind of a culture shock that I was facing.
How did you manage, regarding the language, studying such a technical field in a new language?
Yeah, so I thought I was going to study comparative literature because I studied Chinese literature before I came to the United States. But my English was so poor, I couldn't study comparative literature. And then also, I didn't have any money. I don't have friends or relatives. So I need to find a major that I can find jobs. And everybody told me like, "Oh, you study literature, you can't find a job." So I was looking around and I found computer science, which at the time was a new field. And computer science is man-made language. So I thought, okay, I'm good with language, and maybe I would be on the same playing field with everybody else with a man-made language. That was really how I chose that major. Because someone told me computer science, instead of writing essays on montage, you're writing code for people to use. I was thinking like, okay, man-made language, And then for people to use, since 8, I was working. I'm very handy. This seemed like a major I can do. That's how I chose it.
Okay, wow. So you became so good at it that you finally founded a company and created technologies. Can you tell me more about this?
Yeah. So for me, whenever there is a very difficult situation, I usually have a mental image that I live in. Sometimes people call that daydream. Sometimes people call it vision. So when I studied computer science, I was thinking that I'm writing the code for the future not yet imagined. That's my mental image. So I always try to find projects that are useful and for the future, even at the school. Because my literature background, I didn't come from engineering, so I wasn't thinking about just solving the problems, but I'm thinking about how can we create a solution where that's better. For example, when I was studying logical class, everybody was doing ones and zeros. I went to Radio Shack, bought a choo-choo trans, and designed a smart traffic system that you can actually use logic to control and demonstrate it. No student was doing that. So my professor really loved my project and invited me to be PhD student with him. When I started Geomagic, the first time I went out, I saw a 3D printer by Chuck Hall, who's the inventor of 3D printer. He was printing these parts from a machine. Now, I used to run mini machine when I was in China, not a computer controlled, but manual ones. So for me, a machine can print a mechanical part seems like a magic, right? So I went to ask him, what's the most challenging part of doing this? Being an inventor of hardware, he told me the most challenging part was there's no software for it. So when there's no software to control that machine, he could actually print a part. That's magic. And that's how I started Geomagic. I was trying to use mathematics and computer science to create models for 3D printers. And I found out there was a lot of 3D scanners out there, like 3D cameras. They capture the data, but the data have no place to go. But then you also have 3D printer that don't have the data. So that's when I put the picture together, a mental image. So I went out to raise money for the company. I said, imagine walking into Nike Town, put your foot on the 3D scanner. Next day, come back to pick up a custom-made hiking boots. Imagine walking into an orthodontics office, watching your daughter's beautiful smile for next 2 years before you put the braces on. So I did a couple of those imagines, and then I said Geomagic will turn those dreams into reality. I had no idea how to make that happen. But somehow, at that time, was not like today's startup time. Back then, I was very lucky. Raising fund was much easier. And most of the people who go do a pitch are very dry. At that time, there was not much TED conference teach you how to tell the story and anything. So my talk stood out. And with one talk, I raised $2 million, and then I started a company.
Wow, what was your secret?
You mean the secret of starting company? Or
No, use the secret for
stories?
pitching and raising money.
Well, that's just what I knew how to do. I know how to tell stories. And I know how to create a mental image of the future. When I studied computer science, I said to myself, I'm writing the code for the future not yet imagined. So I'm helping people to imagine the future of the product and solutions that didn't exist today. And
so you're sharing the code for them for the future.
Yeah, I'm sharing the code for them for the future, but in a way that is digestible, in the way that people can relate.
I guess the little 8-year-old girl going through a nightmare in China, and then you are co-founder, CEO, raising money in the United States. Did you have a moment where you're like this, I need to pinch myself. This is too good to be true?
Yes. So every startup company, especially the successful startup company goes through near-death situation. There's always up and downs, right? It's not like a straight up story. And so I gone through some ups and downs for the company. And then during 911, when everything stopped and funding stopped, the company almost died. I hired a CEO before, and then he left at that time. I took the company back and became the CEO again. And I saved the company and also thrived. So in 2005, I became the cover girl of Inc. magazine, the magazine for entrepreneurs, right? And I was very surprised because there are many other companies that are truly more exceptional in my mind. The second run-up was PayPal.
Wow.
That year. Yes. And so I could have pinched myself. I was thinking about that girl who's being told again and again, you're nobody. You're worth less than the dirt under our feet, to become a cover girl and to become the entrepreneur of the year of the magazine that's for entrepreneurs.
Wow. Well done. And you were mentioning hard moments. I guess you applied the advice of your uncle, bend not break at the time.
Bend not break, yeah.
So what was the toughest moment in your company's life in the US?
There are a couple of them. So I briefly mentioned the near-death situation. Yeah. But later there is another tough moment that I like to touch because it's not something people like to talk about. When I was running the company was rather successful. My husband decided to leave. So I did not expect that. It was hitting me with a surprise. At that moment, my father just passed away. My mother came to the United States to live with me, and she was the one actually abused me when I was young. So when I see her, it triggers trauma. And I haven't gone through a lot of process to deal with that. And my daughter was 14 and just entered a teenager year, and I was going through menopause. So it's like a perfect storm for a woman who has so much responsibilities, whether or not it's professional or personal. And it hit me really hard. But I was pretending it's nothing. I was trying to be strong. I was trying to be strong for my daughter, for my mother, for the company, and I was trying to be the CEO. But you know what? It comes out. Like, I can't pretend. I think I was pretending. My employees came to my office and said, Ping, you know what? You need to leave. You need to take a break. We can see from your face that you're in pain. I'm like, I'm not in pain. No, you are. We're going to lock up your office and kick you out. You leave for 2 weeks, the company's not going to crash. And so I did. And that saved me and saved the company too. But that was a really difficult moment. I remember like it was almost as hard as at the time I was gang raped in China from an emotional point of view. Because everything was hitting me. I was at the peak of my career. I didn't know how to handle that.
Wow. And how after this, did you take 2 weeks?
I did. I took 2 weeks. My sister said, let's just go drive. We went to the nature. We went to this $1 million driveway in Colorado. I remember looking at all millions and millions of trees, and we went to the ocean. I remember looking at the waves. We went to the darkest place in the United States to look at the dark sky, stars and universe, just do the star watch. And then suddenly I felt that my worries are not that big. You know, we are so small and we are just one dot in this universe. But at the same time, we're connected. You know, we are the universe. So we're small, but we're powerful at the same time. That's kind of how I realized those worries are really just temporary. They can pass. And I can let it pass. I can sit on it and feel feel the pain, not to deny it, but I can also let it pass. I can drop it.
Wow, that's a beautiful story to share. So I guess you're even stronger now than before?
I am stronger now than before, but not just because I can overcome difficulties, but also because I can look at the success the same way as I look at the difficulties. This is actually interesting. So when I wrote my book, Band of Break, in 2003, I got attacked by the Chinese netizens. I was the first one being internet trolled overseas by the Chinese in China. And they were calling me any name. Amazon was full of attacking messages and everything. And I wrote a book to deal with shame. I thought if I could talk about it, then I can overcome shame. But I was shamed again, openly on internet, in a stronger and more faster and massive fashion. And that hit me very hard. But I already at the time kind of equipped with how to deal with trauma. By then, I looked at it and I looked at why I feel so hurtful when people tell lies or calling me names. And I realized it was because it disagreed with the story that I told myself or the story that the society made for me after I was successful. You know, when you're successful, they put you on a pedestal, everything was accolades. And then also over the years I work on myself, I have this story that I'm a good person, that I'm caring, that I'm generous, whatever, you put the label on yourself. When you get attacked, all of those goes to the gutter. They call you liars, a bitch, whatever. They get all the bad words being called, and then story made about your life that's not true. But people don't know. Like my friends don't know. Like, do I go explain to them? This is not me and this is a lie. I don't really want to do that. What I realized was attaching to good stories or bad stories are equally harmful. So we tend to, if somebody create a good story or we ourselves create a good story of ourselves, we attach to that. Then we insisting that's me or this is how I am. And when story is different, we get hurt. But that's just a story. If I can detach to that story also, then I can be truly free. I can truly feel the freedom.
Wow, that's beautiful because it's difficult to detach from the consequences of a wrong story also.
And it's also difficult to detach from the consequence of the good story. So Yo-Yo Ma once told this story that in order to not let down his fan, in order to be the best cello player all these years, he still to this day practiced 6 hours a day. As a result, he missed a lot of things in his life, right?
Yeah.
Like Elon Musk, we built him being the most innovative person on earth. Maybe he is. But when you attach to that story, you become manic about doing that. And you miss a lot of other things in life. It's a sacrifice. For me, it's lack of freedom.
Yeah. Wow, it's beautiful wisdom you're sharing now, and is this a thing that changed your life?
Yeah, so today I feel so much more calmer and so much more confident or comfortable in my body, and so much easier for me to be vulnerable or to say, I'm sorry, I did that wrong, oops, I made a mistake. Because I'm not attached to the good story anymore. Same as I'm not attached to the bad story, so I don't want to be perfect. We are the person who, if you think about unity like a verdicts or Zen wisdom, you are who you are. You are all. All is you. All means good and bad, more or less. So I always jokingly say, I want it all. I just don't always want more.
Can you specify why you were attacked? Is it by the Chinese internet? Is it because you were successful and talking about cultural revolution? That's why you were attacked online?
I think there are a couple of things happening. So 2013, that was, 2013 was when Xi Jinping, the current leader, being named to be the next leader. I believe his inauguration is the first quarter, I don't remember, it's February or March, sometimes in that time, that he will be officially lead the Chinese Communist Party.
Okay.
I was doing the book tour in January, and then the book tour, all of the US media was billing me as the American dream. Someone come with nothing and become successful. Xi Jinping's launch is Chinese dream. It's a red dream. China dream is a collective dream. It's everyone work together. That's the dream, not the individual dream. So there's a different ideology between the West and the East, and I just happen to have a Chinese face. So it feels like I'm talking against the Chinese ideology, and that was one of the reasons. The other reason was there were some kind of forbidden topic, Cultural Revolution being one, rape being one, one-child policy, how they enforce that. So there are those things that they don't want to talk about. And then also Chinese culture has this thing called losing face or not air dirty laundry. So many of the Chinese netizens feels like I shamed China by talking about Cultural Revolution, by talking about some of the things that happened a long time ago.
How do you look at China today? How has it changed? And do you have hope for other changes for the country?
China as a long civilization is not only civilization of the four old civilization that has never had interruption, right? China has tremendous wisdom, invention, culture that I love. I did live through a period of China that was very dark. And looking back, I realized, I also working through that, I realized even though that I lived through that period, that's not China. That's just a period of China.
Yeah.
When I look at China and United States, I love both countries. I'm a U.S. citizen now, but I was born Chinese. They both are large countries, whether or not landscape or population. People born in large country think big. Just the environment makes you think big, right? There's a lot of similarity of the two countries, and there's a lot of differences of the two countries. And the ideology is very different. But in terms of entrepreneurship, individual accountability, think big, making big impact, not only to your own country, but also to the world, there's many, many, many similarities there. And there's also differences, which is good because that's what makes our human life interesting. We want, like about diversity, we don't want everything to be the same. And there should be differences. But I do feel like China and United States, if they collaborate, the world would be a better place. If they fight, it's not good for anyone. So I hope that the country will find a way to collaborate. You can compete, but it can be co-competition, right? Even in business, we talk about that. China have done many things that's worth us to pay attention to. They lifted 600 million people out of poverty. If you look at how they build infrastructures of the country, it's amazing. But the freedom of expression is not there. And there's a lot of suppressiveness of human rights, I think, could be improved. But I'm not running China. Who am I there to say, how do you run a country with that many people, right? It's just my wish that those are the things could be improved.
Of course. You mentioned collaboration between the States and China. I guess if there was a solution, it would probably be done. But do you have like any solution or any area where China and the United States could collaborate and have a common ground? Or the beginning of a solution?
Yeah, the environmental tech, for example, China is making huge investment technology product and services that can clean up airs, water. I think that's an area we can definitely collaborate. Not only China clean up their air is great for the globe, but also the things that they created, right? Infrastructure. A lot of things that China built for the infrastructure is so efficient that we could benefit from that. From a cultural point of view, I think that politics is at the government level. A lot of things, if we're not in politics, we're not in the position, we may not be able to influence. But there's something called the citizen politics, right? At the people level, there's a lot of exchanges, more awareness, more education, more cultural exchange, more visiting each other, more tolerance and embrace and understanding of the differences and learning from each other could be very, very beneficial.
Ping, the theme of Harvest in May 2025, this May, is going to be courage. So I'm very happy to have you on this podcast because you embody yourself courage. I'm asking every guest what is the most courageous thing they had to do in their life. I think you've done so many, but could you pick one?
That's a really interesting question. I understood courage differently when I was young to where I am now. When I was young, I think of courage as a heroic act. Okay, so I think leaving China to come to the United States was a very courageous move that I did. I could just say, oh, I just stay in China, where it is familiar to me, and to go to unknown world by myself at that age. I think it's a courageous and heroic journey. Today, I don't actually think courage that way. Cur is heart, right? It's from the source.
Yeah.
Today, I think of courage is showing up, being in the arena, even if you don't know what outcome will be, rather than just sitting back and watching and thinking in your head what is a heroic act or admiring somebody's courage. I think showing up is a courage. The first person coming to the dance floor takes a courage. Now everybody follows to dance, right? The first person to do something that everybody reluctant to do takes courage. To speak from your heart and not worry about whether or not it makes you look bad or hurt somebody's feeling takes courage. So today I think that as a courage.
Wow, wonderful. Ping, I was so happy to have you. Thanks for sharing your insights, your story, your courageous story, and your wisdom. So thanks for being with me. I hope to see you in Kaplankaya next May.
Thank you.
And have a lovely day and good luck with the fires in LA.
Thank you. You have a good day too.